weekly study. We are here with our respected teacher and guide, mashallah, Dr. Yamina, who will be taking us through today's session. Over to you, Dr. Yamina.
Thank you, Zahra. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Inshallah, everyone is doing well and doing better and better, inshallah, especially in our conscious journey in Ubudiyya, conscious journey to prepare for eternal life, for Akhirah, inshallah. And we stopped last week at the 31st window, and the 31st window was started with two passages from the Quran, one from Surah At-Tin, when it says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. We have created human being in the best of forms, because this is related to how we can fulfill that potential of best of forms, أحسن التقويم. And the other passage was Ayah 20 and 21 from Surah 51, Surah Al-Dhariyat. And in the earth there are signs for those who are certain, and in your own selves will you not then see? So remember, at the beginning of this 33 words is also an ayah that points out that the signposts to the truth, to the meaning of life, to the purpose of life, to who our sustainer is, who our source of hope and help and goodness and perfection is, are the signs, those messengers are in the outer world and within ourselves. And so far we've been, each window was about how everything outside, big and small, particular and universal, is a sign of God, and how they were related to us, how their glorification makes us know God and glorifying Him, how they make us, their shahada, their testimony makes us, enables us to testify to divine unity, to the meaning of the purpose of our life, and to true fulfillment that pertains not only to this life, but to eternal life. And so this second passage here is saying that وَفِي الْأَرْضِ آيَاتٌ لِلْمُوقِنِينَ, and everywhere in the earth there are signs, but there are signs for those who have certainty, or they are willing, they are open to be transformed, they are open to receive that witnessing, that testimony, that truth. And in your own selves, so this is also important, and within yourselves. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Do you not see, do you not perceive? It means if you perceive and look carefully, consciously, you will realize it if your intention is open. If you don't have the intention, either you don't have the intention, or you have the intention to, you're coming with an intention to resist and to, you have other intentions. And we went through the first aspect of the first point. The first point is human being is a mirror to the divine names in three aspects. So we went through one, and now it's the second and the third, inshallah. And so, Bismillah. I think someone, inshallah, is kindly sharing their reflections with us. Is that so?
Yes, inshallah. I will get the PowerPoint up.
while we're waiting for the PowerPoint, the second aspect, so this point is about human being. Fitratan is created in a way that he mirrors the divine names in various aspects. And the second aspect of being mirror-like is this. Through particulars like his partial knowledge, power, senses of sight and hearing, ownership and sovereignty, which are sorts of samples given to him, human being acts as a mirror to the knowledge, the power, the sight, the hearing and sovereignty of Rububiyyah, of the master of the universe, the sustainer of the universe, the Lord of the universe. He understands them, human being understands them and makes them known. So to the extent that we understand them, we make them known. For example, he says, this is human being says, just as I make this house and know how to make it, and I see it and own it and administer it, so the mighty palace of the universe has a maker. Its maker knows it, sees it, makes it, administrates it, and so on. And of course, we need to keep in mind the first aspect. That's why it was the first and not the second. Because when I say just I make this house and I know how to make it, this is only the first step. The second step was the first aspect, that my knowing is only a shadow, a unit of measurement of true knowledge, bestowed to me from or flowing through me from the source of knowledge. Or that's why he's saying mirror-like, because mirror, what we see in the mirror is not from the mirror. We need to keep that in mind, inshallah. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum. The first thing is I apologize for any noise in the background. I know that everyone is trying to help me keep it as quiet as possible. And I think it's going to become more quiet here in a moment. I also apologize. It should just say the 31st window, not the 31st word, which the 31st window is the window of the human being into belief. Next slide, please. So this ayah has appeared to us, and we are being asked to confirm it within ourselves and through the outside world first, then in ourselves. This window being the window of the human being, this is our focus. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We have created the human being in the best of forms. This is from the 95th chapter, ayah 4. And in your own selves, will you then not see? From the 51st chapter, ayah 20 to 21. Imam Nursi, radiallahu anhu, gives a quick tafsir of this. The human being is a missive. A missive means a long official letter, so comprehensive that through his self, Almighty God makes perceived to him all his names. I highlighted through his self because sometimes when I'm studying the Risalah or anything else, and for that matter, sometimes I lose track of why I'm studying and what I am perceiving. Sometimes I think that I'm acquiring information as opposed to doing work for conviction. And it's often very helpful for me to remember that we are looking at the self as an ayah. In this window, the ayah for contemplation is the human self, just like we would have looked at the sky, for example, to contemplate on it, or a flower to contemplate on it. In this window, we're not just acquiring information that seems spiritual but we're actually taking a, some people call it a hard look, but I prefer to call it an intentional look at the human self. We're asking ourselves, do our bodies, I need your help to keep it quiet in the background. Do our bodies, feelings, and reason tell us about the existence of a creator and what he must be like? So that's our question. Next slide, please. We were given the first point, and we're being asked to confirm this within ourselves. The first point, man is a mirror to the divine names in 3 aspects. So I have to ask myself, is the first point true? Is man a mirror to the divine names? This was the process I took, and I'm just inviting others to join along with this process. And the process is what I am learning here through this 31st window. It's how it's reaching me. So I'm inviting everyone to go along on this journey with me and to go through this process. I thought it was very interesting that Imam Nursi brings up the conscience. The conscience is often defined as an inner feeling or a voice viewed as acting as a guide to the rightness or wrongness of one's behavior. I wondered, I don't know, I wanted to ask this to Dr. Yamina, if this is, if he's referring to the nafs al-lawama, as I've come to understand what it is, or that I've learned about it previously, which is a self that becomes conscious of one's own imperfections, and it is inspired by the heart to reason. That did speak to me personally, because even in the Quran, there's a beautiful ayah in Surah Muhammad 75, ayah 2. But nigh, I call to witness the accusing voice of man's own conscience. So even this thing in itself, this conscience, is being called, Allah Ta'ala calls it to witness. And that for me, that seems like something incredibly powerful. And so I want to know if that's true, if this voice is inside of me. I think it is. I've lived with this voice, my entire life. Children are interested in right versus wrong. I think it was pretty easy for me to confirm that, yes, there is this voice of the conscience inside of myself. So I find this voice, that the one that's interested in right versus wrong. And I say to it, let's take a look, or, with it, I take a look at my own creation and those around me too. I mean, I can look at my child's creation for deep reflection as well, and my parents. I look at it from this point of self-honesty, and I ask, what does it reveal? And I'm looking at my life story, and I'm asking, have I ever found any power within myself, or guarantee that I can give myself for anything at all? Or have I found a power that was limitless? Or have I found myself that I can guarantee anything I want? Personally, I gave myself my own examples. I had a near passing to the next life experience on a surgical table. Could I save myself during that time? Could the doctor? No, it was a miracle. Everybody called it a miracle that I survived. Going back to like my earlier times, my youth, I had dreams of studying. So I still have those dreams of studying something or serving in some way. But could I make those come true by myself? Or if I think about it, that every single step of the way I needed help. I mean, every moment I needed help, either through the sustaining of my body, through the air that needed to reach me so that I could study, so that I could go to school, so that I could pass through coursework and seek a profession of service, but every single step along the way, my dreams had to be supported. I was absolutely needy and vulnerable. And that's what I discover when I use my conscience to take an honest look at myself. I'm discovering absolute vulnerability. I'm discovering needs and desires and faults and so many weaknesses. Next. Imam Nursi said he called to my attention two things. And at first, I really glossed over this in the text. I mean, it wasn't something that I could even distinguish the difference between a point of support or a point of assistance until I started to really look at the definitions of what this means and started to tear apart, or not tear apart, but like divide, organize these different elements of myself and what they're pointing to. Human beings, we have, if we look inside of ourselves, can we confirm this? That we have a need for support. We need a point of support. How do we see that? Where does the evidence for this? Well, it was in my weakness, my boundless weakness. He says it's up against enemies. Another word might be negativity. So all of the weaknesses that I have, yet I need that help to get me through life all the time, every single day. This is my weakness. And from one perception, I could, especially if I don't notice the support, it becomes very negative, the fact that I have these weaknesses. And it becomes something to fight in itself, the fact that I could be weak. Then there's the point of there's this needing assistance, this desiring a point of assistance. He says it's absolute poverty. So owning nothing, up against the fact that I have so many aims and goals and desires in my life. So I was given these elements that are working that are working together. Actually, I can't confirm that they're given yet. That comes later. All I can confirm at this point is that they're there. That that I am weak, that I own nothing, yet I want everything, and I really want help. So I can confirm that I need support, that this is something I find within my existence. This is the way I just showed up here, and this was true about me. And that I do desire assistance. Absolutely, I desire that because I want to do so many things and I can't do anything. I don't own anything. I can't really make things happen. I have very limited understanding of how to work in the world. And I'm opening my eyes every day and hoping that, all of it's just going to come together and work out. Next slide, please. My observation that I can confirm. I cannot explain how I got here, but I notice that I am absolutely vulnerable. Yet somehow, this has been the case for 35 years now, I am being taken care of, and I can look at my children and my family, and I can confirm, because I know their life stories very well, that they have also been taken care of. Despite their weaknesses, despite the fact that they don't own anything, can't do anything, they're just being taken care of. I also find that I am not satisfied with being so helpless. Even though everything is being given to me, I'm so helpless, everything is being given to me, but I'm still not satisfied. that those observations in themselves don't provide the meaning. I'm still looking for something beyond myself and an ultimate explanation for why this is all as it is. Next slide, please. So I'm calling this observing my observation. In other words, witnessing. Step back and ask yourself, like, we're not just here to describe the situation. We're here to take a look at, why is this situation as it is? How did it get this way? Ask questions about it. Don't take it for granted that we even notice that we have needs. Why do I have needs? Step one was the way I just showed up here with needs and desires. And I am in the role of receiving their fulfillment. It's pointing to something or some things as I'm observing this. It still at this point could be some things that is or are making this dynamic relationship happen in the first place. For me, this is my process. I mean, maybe for others, but that's not true. But for me, I will explain why it's still some things. It's making this dynamic relationship happen in the first place. This needing a point of support, this desiring a point of assistance. Step two, since this dynamic relationship
There is a, I'm not hearing anything on my side.
Yeah, me neither. Sister Anaba, I think the audio is not coming through. Hello? It's coming
Hello?
in and out.
Nothing?
Oh, okay. I just heard you say nothing.
Okay. I will talk and then let me know how choppy it is.
Okay.
Now it's
Is
good.
it's better now? Okay, thank you. Alhamdulillah. Step two, since this dynamic relationship has consistent qualities, for example, my need for breathing happens to work out with my need for water, and that the fluids that flow through my body help the oxygen spread through my body. So since this dynamic relationship has consistent qualities and all of it is happening at the same time and with order, be it I've also done the work. I mean, I've been learning more and more about these signs and confirming from the outer world how magnificently everything is coming together. Since all the other signs in creation and revelation point to one source, then I can only confirm that this one something, not others. It would. There's no way that there could be multiple gods or multiple things that are in control here that are making this all work together. Owns my needs and my desires, and has the attributes necessary to give this fulfillment. But it's the stepping back, look at the entire situation as it's coming together, that becomes a witnessing, where he shows me who he is by showing me who I am in a dynamic relationship with him and with him only, because it would fall apart if it was just me then standing alone. I have to be in this dynamic relationship with him. Next slide, please. So witnessing in itself is something that this window very much highlights for me. So it's one thing to, again, to be honest that you're needy. It's another thing to be honest that you have so many desires. You know, being needy, I could go to this God and pray for the God of water to give me water. I could go to the God of oxygen to give me oxygen. When one sees the qualities of the way it's coming together, by stepping back from just the description of the situation as it is, then witnessing happens. And I have to ask, wait a minute, yet again in my life, something is just happening to me. I'm being made to witness all of a sudden. Where did that come from in the first place? So should I take for granted that I'm even being made to witness? And those steps, for example, being given the need for support points to the necessarily existent one. The point of assistance, and this is what we're reading in the text, points to the point that I want so many things. In my conscience, this is giving me the desire to have somebody who is all compassionate, who owns everything. Imam Nursi calls it the all compassionate one of riches. Above those, the one who is making this all happen is the one who is making me witness all of these things that are happening. It overwhelms one. I mean, to realize that there's the description of what's happening, there's the way that it points to what we want. Then one realizes that, wait a minute, I didn't make up the great idea that I should have needs, or I didn't even make up the great idea that I should have dreams and goals and aims in my life. Those were given to me. I just showed up here with them. They were given to me. And then at the same time, I'm also being called to witness this all. I feel light. I feel like intimately close, although I know I'm not the creator. I feel intimately close with him. And this process, this journey being put together allows me to confirm. Next.
Oh, Sister Naba, the audio's choppy again.
Is it gone again? Next slide, please. Bismillah. Did you hear my what was the last thing you heard from me, please?
When you said next slide.
Okay, great. Before that, what was the last thing you heard?
Let me. Oh, how it's overwhelming when you consider. Mm-hmm.
Yes, the overwhelmingness, the lightness that one feels in the witnessing of this situation, of this existence as it is, with this, with an honest description. It does bring a lightness and a closeness to one's heart. And then next slide, please. So this is how it can become true for me. This was my process of understanding how I could be a mirror, because I couldn't confirm that at first by just being told. I needed to go on this journey, this describing, this honesty, this recognition that all of this came to me, that I'm being given. And then also, I couldn't take for granted that I'm being called to witness. And in this witnessing, I do see the mirror. I can confirm that this is a mirror. And what I'm experiencing here are these attributes coming by the command of the one who's sending them. And I can confirm what my brother Imam Nursi radiallahu anhu said, that yes, I am a mirror to the divine names. I invite you to confirm the same thing, because Allahu Akbar, being a mirror to the divine names is quite an honor, wouldn't you say? Thank you. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Inaba. If there are any reflections, comments, responses, anyone would like to share, inshallah, what Inaba shared with us?
Assalamu alaikum, Jazakallah khair, and Inaba. I have a lot of human sounds in the background, but what I really enjoyed, mashallah, was the being made aware that witnessing is also given. So that's, if just hearing that eased me to the path of ease, because everything is given. It's so easy to think that I am witnessing a moment of mercy or becoming aware of qualities and making this connection. But the reality, mashallah, like you said, is that even the witnessing capacity, that mirror that's installed or engineered in our, I don't forget what the name is, like in the computer software, like it's already where it's embedded within our system. And it's just so humbling, because it brings me back to like, okay, so who am I then? Like even the ability to perceive is given. But I missed this, the point of assistance versus the support, like the difference between the two. And I know, Inaba, you were talking about it, but I unfortunately during this bath time couldn't hear that part of it. If Dr. Yamina, if you're speaking or if someone's speaking, it's muted.
I'm not actually speaking. I'm waiting for others to share, inshallah. The point of support and point of assistance is something that we also discussed last week. And just as Inaba showed, like she had clearly, how do we know there are these 2 points? Is because on one hand, we have powerlessness and weakness. We have no power within us. And on the other hand, we have these needs and desires and goals. So we need a point of support, we need that power, and we also need assistance, someone who takes care of our needs and our desires. And so we get to know God in different ways, not only that He's necessarily existence and there is power and a source of support, but it's relevant to us. It's not just like we exist, like a mountain or something in our perception, but He is also, because we have that desire for a point of assistance, that longing for our needs and desires to be taken care of, which Inaba was emphasizing, that we take it for granted that I have dreams, I have desires, I have goals. But that's also something when we pause and reflect and we become more conscious and mindful, we realize that we just find those within ourselves. So they are not from us, they are given to us. They are given to us in order to realize the source of assistance, to know who is assisting us and helping us right here and now.
I think that example, that line in particular, where Sister Naba was talking about, like, she asked the question, could I make my dreams come true? You know, desires and dreams come true. And that really spoke to me. And I wonder if it's because I feel like the messages in mainstream society is like, you know, go after your dreams. And like, you know, it's like the purpose of life is to achieve your dreams, or like to have, you know, you have to have goals and you have to go after your goals. And yeah, I definitely get caught up in that myself. And if I don't reflect through it, I get stuck in it. Just kind of thinking out loud, right? If I have some goals or dreams, I just see them as things in and of themselves that either I am working towards or I'm frustrated because I can't achieve them. And then this view is completely different because it's asking us to maybe to read the signs of what these desires are, these dreams are, and to realize that they're not something that I've created, that they've been given to me and they indicate a deeper message. So
Yeah.
that's something I'm gonna
Definitely. And we
Yeah.
can see that portrayed from one aspect in Surah Yusuf, Surah 12. When we studied Surah Yusuf, if you remember, it starts with Yusuf alayhi salam's dream. And he does not even understand the interpretation, the meaning of the dream. There is a dream. There is like a dream, not only a dream figuratively, but like he has actually a dream. And the whole one aspect of the whole story is that at the very end, the dream is going to be fulfilled. But Yusuf alayhi salam, never works for achieving his dream. He doesn't even know exactly what it is and how to do it or anything. But because all his life is a life of ihsan, a life of totally surrendering to divine will, he's taken in a path that the dream is fulfilled for him. It's fulfilled onto him. And you understand then, because the dream is not the goal. Right when the dream is fulfilled, when he's at the highest, like in worldly understanding, he has authority and power, and he prays to God. He longs for akhirah. He longs for eternal life. So you understand that the dream and its fulfillment are there to as means to prepare us and bring us that potential, that best of forms, Hassan Taqweem, within us when we do it consciously, and bring us closer to that potential to prepare us for our true home, true goal, which is akhirah. And in this world, it brings us closer to our reality and closer to the reality of the divine.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Yamina. Saira here.
Salam, wa alaikum salam.
How are you? How is everybody?
I had a quick question in regards with the presentation today too with Anaba. Thanks. The idea of Allah Ta'ala's beautiful names and ayats and confirmation and being a testimony of all the blessings and everything that is around us. When we feel unsettled, and I'm talking about it in abstract terms, not necessarily in personal terms. When we feel unsettled, when we want to believe in ayah, when we really truly want to accept it, not question it, obviously our sense of affinity with the ayah or the sign is not going to be weak. Even when we struggle with accepting it, because it could be a sign that is unfavorable, it could be a happening or a sudden occurrence or a news or something in human relations, something in natural disasters that our heart did not want to see, our mind or our soul even does not want to believe, because it's destructive or it's unsettling or it moves, just like Quran's ayah is that indeed people are going to be tested to their core and their faith will be shook up. How do we make sense of using the same tool, for lack of a better phrase or term to describe it? How do we use ayats, maybe other ayats, better ayats in the sense that they sound or feel or appear more or indeed are more favorable in the moments when people are really unsettled, and when they can't really do something about the situation because the situation is out of our hands, or it has to do with other people's personal lives, or it has to do with the uncontrollability of natural disasters. How to make sure that we stay within the secure, safe paradigm or parameters rather of holding on to the ayats as our role to be confirming them, that I have witnessed it and it does come from Allah Ta'ala, whether it's something of good or something of evil. And I must make sure that I continue on not only myself keeping guard of what I erroneously don't dismiss or go into doubt, and also certainly not encourage others to do that, to disconfirm the ayats or not to be active in being a testimony to the ayats, and certainly not forgetting Asma Husna, because while there are many names of Allah Ta'ala that evoke awe and fear, there are that many names of Allah Ta'ala that remind us that He is Rahim and Rahman. And Jazakallah khair.
Thank you, Sarah. Inaba, would you like to, inshallah, answer?
Sister Saida, would you please repeat the very last part of your question?
Yeah, sure. So when we are unsettled, when we feel that there is an ayah or there is an event or an occurrence that we don't find confirming our sense of positive, life-oriented, everything happening good, and we being able to hold on to our faith and making sure that we are receiving the ayats in a positive way, accepting and surrendering. In that situation, how do we make sure that we can continue to confirm the ayats, be a witness to Allah Ta'ala's Asma Husna, and not feel the extreme uncomfortable feeling of, and I would say even spiritually shaking feeling of or feeling of being shook up spiritually, because of the fact that whatever news that is negative or whatever event that is negative comes our way, or we are forced to be a witness to it, and yet we cannot do anything about it other than praying, and at the same time it makes us go into that mode of doubt or looking for a better sign, a more favorable sign. I hope I made it clear. Thanks.
Thank you, Saira. Sister Saira, I'm sorry that there's noise in the background. I think it starts with the process, is how I've answered that, or the answer that has come to me in my own life, what I can confirm within my own experience, is a process that starts with an intention, always. And sometimes it's simply the intention to be, the willingness to be willing to see this that's coming to you as carrying something special for you in it, even if it's not yet clear what it is. So I think maybe if your question is like, how do we use these faculties that we're being given to witness in any situation, it seems to begin with, first and foremost, the intention to notice that this is coming to me, my whole life came to me, and I am being taken care of in so many ways. I can make a list of the ways that I'm being taken care of. Now that this particular thing has arrived, am I going to perceive it as all of a sudden, most things were going great in my life, but then this thing happened and now I have a real enemy? Or could I make the intention to perceive that thing as being yet again, once more, my entire life story, something that's being given to me, and in that has something to teach me, could even potentially have blessings in it, could even potentially have a profound meaning in it, as I have found in other circumstances in my life. And when that process starts happening, I think it's even possible, I have found it within myself, the possibility that the intention for noticing things to even be grateful for within that circumstance. Mm-hmm. If one looks at anything with a perceptive, close look, one usually notices, I would even say one does notice that this has come along. If I can't see it within the event itself, at least at the same time, I have also been receiving, support. I've been receiving blessings, and these other things in my life are, developing, or I'm starting to grow in new ways. And so then a process of gratitude starts to happen. And that intention, that's the point though, like that we're all trying to step in, trying to make it to the next step where move as far away from you can of the description of what you think is happening in your existence, and notice how it's all coming together. Notice how witness it, and then ask even yourself, could I have made myself witness? Could I have made myself be grateful? And this is then it's bringing one closer and closer to being able to relax and say that my Lord is taking care of me in this situation. And I can even, and from this sort of like, when I have the evidence that makes me feel like I'm supported, I feel as if I can really let go of a lot of the tension. If I have pain, I'm putting it in his, I I'm putting it in his hands with an intention to say, an intention that says, it's okay if this takes time. I'm going to look for the blessings in this. And I know that my Rab is taking care of me. So for me, this has helped me with, my deepest pains and trials that I face in my own life. That's what I would share from my own journey.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much.
Okay. So in any case, it's either there, it depends on where we are in life when this happens. It seems from the question that it's someone who is already on the path of recognizing the signs and recognizing the beautiful names that they mirror, and being conscious that the person here in this window is like the person becoming consciously a mirror, a conscious mirror to the divine names. So if the person is on this path already, then when something that is harder to digest, let's say, you said unsettling, when we feel unsettled and things feel like out of hand, and you said, for instance, a natural disaster or something, either then the process is going to totally be the length of the process, or the difficulty or ease of the process is proportionally proportional to our conscious willingness to surrender. The more we are willing to surrender, the easier and the shortest the process will be to at least, even if we don't understand the wisdom of what's going on, at least surrender to the fact that just because I don't know, it does not mean that it does not have a higher purpose and meaning, and even something that looks disastrous. So it becomes easier to focus. And as Inaba was saying, at the same time, I am made to breathe, I'm giving life. So at the same time that something disastrous is happening, the same time also we can witness and testify to mercy and compassion and generosity. So at that moment, it's up to us to choose to trust that the same one who is supporting us, if he willed to, even if it's a human agency, there is human agency, still happened, it was created, then there must be a higher purpose. And I may not be able to understand it or to perceive it right now, and sometimes later we understand. So it's really up to our intention, and that's why we need to nurture and renew that intention day in, day out. So when something like that happens, we are already trained. It's like a muscle. That surrendering, intentional, conscious living and surrendering is a muscle that we develop through everyday remembrance. And sometimes situations like that can be the starting point for someone who is in heedlessness, in mindlessness, to actually start questioning the meaning of life and deciding to start living more meaningfully and looking for the meaning of purpose of life. So in that situation, something that looks really unsettling could be the means to something very powerful and beneficial for some people. So, inshallah.
Sister Yamina, Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, Sister Saira, your question,
Yes.
the answer to it, I always think about how you have transformed your For me, that was the most inspiring example to look at when you shared your how you turned yourself and how you have grown closer to
Jazakallah
Allah.
khair. Jazakallah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Subhanallah.
Yes, very true, Ziba. Thank you. That's exactly a practical example for all of us, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina.
Anyone else, inshallah? Reflections or comments or questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
This is Salam Farhan here. Assalamu alaikum, y'all. So Dr. Yamina, when you were saying about, it's kind of like the metaphor of like building a muscle, what was coming to me through all of this discussion so far, since the question was asked, was learning how to tolerate the discomfort. I know, I guess depending, it's relative to certain situations, I guess, because if your immediate survival needs are at risk, it's like you have to take action to some extent. But in my experience, building the muscle of tolerating discomfort was kind of a first step for me, followed by then being able to layer on like Allah's beautiful names and being more conscious and intentional with dua that I've been reading for years, but perhaps was not like conscious of what I was really saying. So at least in my experience, if this is helpful, inshallah, that like in those moments of discomfort, just trying to get myself physically and mentally to reel it in, so I'm not just like building this whole narrative frantically about what's happening through my own perception, and trying to tolerate the discomfort as long as I can, and then layering on these, the trust and the names of Allah as they come to me. At least for me, I felt that things would progress so rapidly, but when I would pause and tolerate, then Allah was sending me, whether it was a name or a reflection that would bring ease to my discomfort, to my distraught state, whether it was about somebody in my life, like someone other than me, or about myself in particular. Jazakumullah khair.
Yeah, thank you. Just like, I don't know exactly what you mean by tolerate, but I feel like at the same time, if we want the process to be much easier and quicker, is to focus more, rather than focusing on tolerating the discomfort, focusing more on things that gives us comfort, things that, and I was saying like that brings appreciation and gratitude within us. The more we focus on that, our hal, our state of being shifts so that it becomes easy to, first, the discomfort, whatever is causing discomfort, is going to shrink because we gain a new perspective. So when we are working on tolerating discomfort is still in our face. So it feels much bigger than it actually is. But when we shift the focus on what makes us grateful and what we appreciate, then whatever is causing discomfort we get a perspective, and then we can see it from outside, and it becomes much smaller in the bigger picture. And so it becomes not only easy, not only to tolerate it, but also it's more than tolerate. It's more like an acceptance, in the sense that it is here for a purpose. And for me personally, and we did work on it when we were working about trauma and things, the discomfort, whether physical or emotional or whatever it's bringing within us as a way of being, of feeling, of, those are also created signs and ayat that are reflecting something, that are bringing messages to us. And so we start welcoming that and listening to it. And so now it's totally different. It's shifting from, when I'm tolerating, I'm already assuming that this is something bad that I don't want to in my life, which is, from one perspective, it's true. But from another perspective, I am made to dislike it for a reason, for a purpose, and not just to focus on it and just like say, go away. But it was created for a purpose. First, find the purpose, and then, inshallah, like Sayyidina Prophet Ayyub alayhi salam, once he found the purpose of his illness, then he was inspired with the cure. So we listen to the pain, and so that pain will speak to us, and the pain will fulfill, the pain, the discomfort will fulfill the purpose of its creation. So it's not created, ما خلقت هذا باطلا. So it's much more, when there is acceptance, even if it remains there with me, now it is a companion, that a teacher, teaching me and preparing me for eternal life. So I feel it becomes much easier. Inshallah. And that's what sabr is. So, but sabr starts with tolerating and then accepting, inshallah.
Yes, Jazakallah khair. That was a much more articulate meaning of tolerate, I guess. Sitting with came once you continued describing, the process and how.
That's good.
Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Thank you, Dr. Yamina, and everyone.
Yeah. Sitting with is a good way of putting it. Thank you. So in the second aspect of being mirror-like, he says, like, we have hearing, seeing, we have a sense of ownership, and all this are also given to us as units of measurement in order to mirror and understand the knowledge, the power, the sight, the hearing of God, of the maker, of the creator. It means we would not be able to understand ownership if we didn't have a sense of ownership. So we understand that everything has an owner, it is owned, and we understand that God, whoever is making them and sustaining them, is the owner. However, like we are told in the first aspect, this ownership is not real in us. It's not a true ownership that we own. It's only like a unit of measurement, like a thermometer. Thermometer gives the measures heat, but it does not produce heat. And this is important. So mirror, like the mirror reflects, but it does not produce. It reflects only what is being reflected onto it. So we have a sense of ownership because we were created with these senses. We were given these faculties. And so when we know this, and we need, as Inaba said at the very beginning, are we truly mirror-like? Is truly, I look at what I know, is it from me, or do I find it in me? Even when I work hard, how do I acquire knowledge? So we have to, each one of us, we have to go step by step through that reflection, because otherwise that knowledge, that information, the information does not become a reality that we have certainty of, that we have conviction of. I am sure, I have no doubt that I am given knowledge, I'm given sight, hearing, like unless we pause and intend to consciously, mindfully reflect on how I hear, and then I realize that I don't hear, I am made to hear. I just want to hear and I hear. And sometimes I don't want to hear, like there are noises everywhere, and I can only focus on one sound instead of another. And seeing, if I were to not see, could I make myself see? I can't. So this, just to say it like this or hearing it like this is not enough. It needs to be reflected again and again, meditating, contemplating, until really, really, this is who I am. I am right now made to understand, made to realize, made to be conscious, made to hear and see, made to speak, made to breathe, made to be alive. Then, to that extent, that I, the ego, that thrives in heedlessness, in ghafla, that ego that claims independence from its Rabb, from its maker, sustainer, even from its connection to the rest of the world, because only when we are aware of the connection with the rest of the creation, we realize there is no way we could control all of this in order to be. Only one who has power and control over all things can be my sustainer and their sustainers. And that's what Samadaniya, Samad, Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu Samad, was a name of God that was repeated a lot in the previous windows. So when we do not reflect and cultivate this way of being aware, of being sustained here and now, that's what ubudiyya is. Ubudiyya is being a conscious abd, not only ibadah when I'm praying or something. No, my being is a witness, a testimony, a mirror to ubudiyya. Why? Because here and now, I am always 24/7 constantly being sustained, receiving the support, the assistance, the rahmah, the seeing, my knowledge, everything is being reflected, being through me all the time. The more we become aware of that, that's the gist of ubudiyya. And that's how I know through that ubudiyya, through that being aware that 24/7 I am constantly being sustained through all these names. It means I'm receiving all this, like this sight and hearing and breathing and whatever you think of, and knowing and understanding and even being conscious. And then I can testify that I have a sustainer, and this sustainer is the seeing, the giver of life, the seeing, hearing, the all-knowing, the all-powerful. So that's ubudiyya. When we are not doing this, then by default, we go into shirk mode. Shirk mode means we appropriate these senses to ourselves. And last time there was a question and we talked about how to the extent that I appropriate these faculties to myself, to that extent, I'm going to, it's going to feel in me, it's an illusion, but it will feel, that's our true belief, is how we feel, how we perceive the world. If I perceive myself that way, I will perceive all of you, everyone in the same mirror. All of you will be the owner of your own faculties, and even all other creatures. And so when we appropriate all these faculties to ourselves, it becomes a huge burden. And it's a burden that we cannot bear because we have not been created with the ability to bear it. And that's why shirk is dhulmun azim. It's a huge, it's like the biggest dhulm, oppression, and because it's the source of all oppression, whether oppressing ourselves or others. For some, it can lead to greed and even destruction. Greed, you want everything, greed for power, greed for resources, greed. It can also lead to anger when we see the injustice, and the anger can go together or with despair, with hopelessness, with desperation. All these are the burden of the shirk, of appropriating everything to ourselves. And this appropriation is because happens when we live in unawareness, in ghafla, in heedlessness. In heedlessness, we identify with that part of us that claims the illusion that we exist independently of everything else. And we are unaware of the purpose of our existence, the purpose of the existence of those faculties within us, the purpose of those needs. For instance, we have a need for justice, and so injustice really hurts, pains us. And if we are unaware of the true purpose, which is related to eternal life, then it's going to the extent that someone really cares about someone who has not destroyed they have not perverted their fitra. So they truly love justice and feel the need for it, and therefore they are really disturbed by injustice. But if the perspective is this world only, then it becomes a real burden. And this goes together with the illusion of the world being permanent, as though there is no akhirah. And at least in that way of being, the akhirah perspective, we may not be denying akhirah, but the akhirah perspective is not, that's not how we perceive the world. We perceive the world as if there is this world and nothing else. And one thing that we talked about a lot, because, everything being a sign, an ayah, and being mirror-like in the Quran is always in the context of perceiving things as they are, which is impermanent. Transience and impermanence goes hand in hand with things flowing from the unseen to here, bringing messages. But when they are not flowing, when we see the world as this is it and there is nothing else, we may not deny akhirah, but we are living as though there is no akhirah. And that's an illusion, because not only the world is not permanent, it's not only not permanent, we think it's not permanent, it means as far as an individual is concerned, let's say in 60, 70 years, it will be the end. No, it's not only that. It's like this month is over, this week is over, this day is over, this hour is over, this minute is over. It's flowing. What we call this world, when we forget about akhirah, when we are stuck here, when we mean impermanent, impermanent means flowing like water flowing through our fingers. Time is flowing, creation is flowing. There is only the now. So all those big discussions that we have about the meaning of that and why is that, and the ego wants to focus on unsettling matters. Before understanding the big picture, we say, oh, I don't like this. What's this point here? Just a second, you didn't even understand the meaning and purpose of life. You want to solve this? How can you solve it without having? I understood the meaning of purpose of life is to get ready for akhirah. You did not. Understanding is not an intellectual thing only. You have to, do you truly believe it? Do you feel like it? No. In our life, we live as though we make all our decisions and as though there is only this world. So how come we're claiming, we know that, I've solved that. Now, can you tell me why is this happening? That world that we are making big fuss about, in reality, especially in the reality of someone who is disconnected from akhirah, who is disconnected from the source of all being, from Rabb al-Alameen, there is only now. Few minutes ago is not here. Few minutes later is not here. What are you talking about even? Like, first, ground yourself in a meaningful reality. If there is no God, if there is no akhirah, there is no meaning, there is no purpose. What are you talking about? Why do you want to solve this or that anyway? But in that, why do we hold on to topics like that? It's because the ego feels very comfortable there, in that darkness. It feels a reason or a justification not to look for the reality, the light, and to surrender unconditionally. And so we thrive in those murky waters, but it brings nothing to at the end, because if there is no akhirah, if God is not at the center, God here means eternity, or that sense of eternal fulfillment that we find within ourselves. If we don't take that into, and the paradox is that we have this within us, and we find in ourselves in a world where everything is impermanent in a way that is flowing very fast. So first we need to resolve this paradox within us. And this window speaks to this resolution very much. Of course, this window will only make sense if we did in the background or in the context of the other windows, because in the context of the messages we are getting from all the rest of the creation, that our companions, or they are our companions in this journey of self-awareness, it's about fulfillment, it's about finding true meaning, true purpose. That's the goal and the true meaning of ibadah and ubudiyah. Ubudiyah and ibadah will make sense to that extent. If there is no ubudiyah, that ibadah is, let's say, like a seed, and it will grow to the extent that it is planted in the soil of ubudiyah, inshallah. So I'll stop here. Next is the third aspect, inshallah.
Sister Yamina, I heard someone saying that
Sure.
people call Mother Nature. It's not Mother Nature, it is Sister Nature. So we are siblings, you know, we are all the same.
It depends on our when people call it mother, because like as if it's the source of nurturing. Yeah. Sister is nice. Like we are all siblings from the same source on the same journey, inshallah. So inshallah, we'll stop here unless you have a comment or a question, a comment, a reflection, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه نستغفر الله نستغفر الله نستغفر الله العظيم الكريم الرحيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه سبحانه اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي فاغفر لنا فإنك لا تغفر الذنوب إلا أنت بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. May you stay all well, inshallah. Fallahu khayru hafidan wa huwa arhamur rahimin.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina, and thank you everyone for joining. Inshallah, see you next week as well.
Inshallah. And if there is someone who can prepare the third aspect, inshallah. And thank you again, Inaba. Thank you. It was very nice and kind to share with us your reflections. في أمان الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Walaikum assalam.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum everyone.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. جزاكم الله خير. Thank you.
Wassalam. Thank you, everybody.
So Maha, Maha is not here.